goodness gracious. My subscribers are going the wrong way. Look right here. Subscribe now or I have to get a real job. In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about two big heavyweight fights that are coming up in this weekend. And they're two fighters in two completely different spots. We have Jared Anderson on an easily accessible ESPN fight on your television. And he's starting out his heavyweight journey, even though he's saying he's kind of ending it in the next few years. He's only fighting for financial stability. He's starting the journey. We're going to figure out where his road goes. And then we have Usyk, who's kind of trying to conclude his journey. And if everything works out in his favor, we could honestly say this might be one of the best heavyweights ever. What a hidden gem, what an underrated fighter. That's what this video is basically going to be about. We're going to go to some nuances with it. But if that sounds good, do the deal. Subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment, all that good stuff, all the stuff that your favorite YouTubers do. Help young Lukie do it so then I can get like 5 or 10 people that think I'm cool. I can get a free pass and try to befriend fighters and tell them that I'm going to do all this cool stuff, basically lie to them. And then we can try to advance the channel by over-promising and under-delivering. I think that's a good way of going about it. So Oleksandr Usyk's taking on Daniel Dubois. Why is this fight happening? It's a WBA heavyweight mandatory fight. I think anyone with half a brain or their last name isn't Dubois or they haven't enjoyed the career of Dubois feels the outcome is just a formality. That's no disrespect to Dubois, but I think that to me, based off of my eye test, Dubois is a guy that is a little undersized at the heavyweight division. I know his dimensions fill out and say that he's not undersized, but he just doesn't look the part from a size standpoint when facing these other guys in the division. He had a fight with Kevin Lerena, which was very, very sketchy. There's durability issues, and his durability issues from the Joe Joyce fight to the Kevin Lerena fight, to me, feel as though he's a smaller man fighting bigger men, and there's just a level that he can't handle at the heavyweight division. And it's not even like a skill thing. It's just a physicality thing. It could just be a durability thing. But to me, it almost feels as though he's caught between a rock and a hard place where he's just a little too big to be a cruiserweight, but he's just a little bit too small to be the modern heavyweight fighter. Usyk is a cruiserweight who's moved up to heavyweight and became a 3-belt champion. He's trying to become undisputed. Tyson Fury, who's one of my favorite fighters, has spent 2 years taking irrelevant and arbitrary fights. He's now next in line to fight Francis Ngannou, a UFC MMA fighter that I've never once watched live. So I potentially have to sit through that fight, which means absolutely nothing to me. I get that it's great that this MMA fighter that I know very little about, who's really famous, is going to fight Fury and he gets the opportunity to make a lot of money. That's wonderful for him, but that has nothing positive for me, a boxing viewer. I want to try to see history and greatness. Usyk, I feel like, got strung along all summer, all winter, and now is returning in the 8th month of the year in a fight against Daniel Dubois, where, if we're being truthful, and we always try to be truthful on this podcast, Dubois is a world-class, top-tier heavyweight, but he doesn't have the thing that we think could trouble Usyk, which is physical size, aggression, big motor, being way too aggressive, and implementing his physicality on Usyk. We still haven't seen that fighter that's a world-class, top-tier heavyweight be the bigger man and try to bully the littler man. Dubois is not going to outbox Usyk unless Usyk lost a step, or this is the classic trap fight. Really, what I think we're going to see is the only way Dubois wins this fight is if he lands a big punch. And that's like saying, okay, if lightning hits the clock and Back to the Future, and then they do this and that, and then they can go back to when he was really alive. That's basically what we're saying in this fight. That being said, I think it's probably the most relevant fight of the week because Usyk, to me, is a Hall of Famer. He, to me, is the best fighter in the sport. It's not his fault that this is what the WBA says is the fight that he needs to as a champion, a 3-belt champion. This is his number one defense. He's simply a fighter. He now has a promoter in the Skills Challenge promotion, which hopefully that helps him get a big fight. but he's a fighter where he's a true professional, and he has to be at the whims of whatever the world tells him. He's won all of his world titles on the road, essentially. He's not really a guy that's going to be able to pull people in based on the bank account figures per se, unless he's fighting in Saudi Arabia and he has the Saudi Arabia backing. He's a pure boxer who's willing to go on the road and put his zero on the line. It's just kind of frustrating because it feels like we have two possible top 10 heavyweights currently in this generation, and this fight really shouldn't be that hard to make. We're seeing all the other fights being made in other divisions, yet the heavyweight division, since Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury, has become the most uninteresting division. We had a little bit of excitement with Joshua and Usyk, but what we really found was Usyk and Fury are the best. Wilder and Joshua were the fighters the fans were drawn to and hoped were the best. That's the takeaway we got from those fights. Now we got Usyk returning. More than likely, it's going to be watched a lot by those in Europe and in the Ukraine. But there's going to be a large portion of U.S. fight fans that don't even know this fight exists. They won't tune in, and it's going to go largely unnoticed. And that's a darn shame, because Usyk deserves to be right up there mentioned amongst the greats. But once again, it's the annoying boxing guy rule. Americans and a lot of people don't like being told someone's great. They want to see it. So when Usyk doesn't get these opportunities to fight in front of fans who can tune in at easy to see times or times that are easy to available to them on regular networks, streaming apps sometimes get tricky, although not for me, but we're saying to maybe people that might be debating about going to a barbecue or throwing a boxing match on. Usyk needs a little bit of that crossover appeal to show his greatness, because it's very hard to hate what Usyk's doing. He's friggin' amazing. But it's easy to hate someone saying, man, this guy Usyk, he's just so special, this, that, and the third. So that's that. Undercard, when you look at this undercard, there's not a lot that gets me excited on this undercard, if I'm being honest. There's not a lot. Just be shooting with you straight. Then we go over to the Tulsa, Oklahoma ESPN card. We got Jared Anderson. He's taking on Andriy Rudenko. Durable, tough guy, veteran guy. You look at his record, he's fought a lot of these good heavyweights. All the other boxing podcasts, my newsletter will tell you all the guys he fought and lost to. He's a veteran opponent. Jared's coming back very quick after his July 1st homecoming fight, which, let's be honest, Jared looked pretty solid in that fight, but he didn't get a knockout, and people want to do doom and gloom and say he's not the best guy ever, since he was honestly probably getting a little overhyped as the next great American heavyweight. That's a very big label to put on him. The thing with Jared is he got caught a few times in the Charles Martin fight, and it shows you how cruel of a sport boxing is. Jared fought a good fight, gets caught maybe 3-4 times in the fight, and people remember the times he got caught more than the good that he did. I think it was also, people were a little confused at how Jared reacted to fighting a bigger man, because it looked like he had been caught between styles. It looked like he likes to implement being the bigger man and kind of putting his willpower on fighters. At the highest level of this division, he has to create a hybrid style, I believe, of boxing and banging, because if he fights those big guys the way I think he mentally wants to fight them, or the way he fought people coming up, that could lead him into trouble against the very best fighters. This, to me, feels like an experience fight, maybe a confidence builder fight for him to get an exciting performance. It's good to see Jared coming back so quickly. He can return to the ring possibly in December, maybe. They've been running these Heisman night cards. That would be cool to see Jared back on one of those type of cards. Experience is great for young fighters, so I love seeing the experience for this. Speaking of which, Efe Ajagbga is taking on the guy that was originally set to take on Jared Anderson. Zhan, can't pronounce his last name, Zane, southpaw, big puncher. And this is a classic to me on paper looking at it. We don't know what to do with Efe Ajagbga fight. Efe's a good fighter. He took a hard fight with Stephen Shaw. The fight was very unexciting from an entertainment standpoint. If we're shooting with you straight, it wasn't all that exciting, and I think that he felt some of that or he should feel some of that with the powers that be. I'm struggling to say things because he went from headlining a card to co-main eventing a card, and Stephen Shaw went from being in a main event to opening up a card a few weeks ago. So that kind of tells you that performance. In the Ajagbga fight, I felt like Ajagbga won it as much as Shaw lost it. Shaw really had a lot of moments of inactivity, and Ajagbga won just basically on pumping a jab and having ring generalship and moving forward. It was a very disappointing performance, I think, by both guys, and I think Ajagbga spoke to that after the fight, because you didn't really hear this like he was happy to win, but you didn't hear a triumphant guy at the end of the night. You heard someone that's like, okay, I need to get better and do this. This is a 50-50 fight. I've never watched his opponent that was originally set to fight Jared Anderson, but something tells me like this is going to just come down to who can take punches better, because I feel like they're both going to land some big shots, and really also how Efe is improving in leveling up in the sport. Because, I mean, there's a world where he loses this fight, and that sets the stage for Jared versus this fighter he was originally set to fight in July. That could be the December fight. If Efe wins, I don't know if he would fight Jared, because I know they've been sparring partners in Texas, so I don't know. But it's an interesting kind of crossroads fight for both guys, because the winner of this fight is going to get an opportunity, but they're going to get an opportunity in the wrong corner. And they have to win a fight like this to get that opportunity to try to put a down payment on what they want to do in life or to secure their legacy in the sport. Opening up the card is the 2020 Olympic super heavyweight gold medalist. He's going for it again in 2024. Jalolov. I never say his name right. And it's really scary watching him, because a lot of smart people, I won't say their names, although I'd love to give them credit, they really are high on him, and they see him as a number one guy. I see a lot of talent with him, but I also see a lot of caught between the amateurs and the pros. I think he could be an extremely special fighter, but I am by no means in the philosophical belief that this guy is going to come in and be the next Vladimir Klitschko. I think that he's a work in progress. He hits really hard. I got to see him transition the offense to defense, defense to offense. When I see that clearly, that's gonna kind of give me a clue on his trajectory. Right now, I'm seeing someone who's very strong, very willing to put his will on other fighters, and his power and his determination, along with a strong skill set. Let's not diminish his skills. He has a strong skill set. Is beating guys, but there will be a guy, whether it's this fight or 10 fights from now, who's going to make him think. And that's where we need to see the offense, defense, defense, offense transitions. Because if he's all gas, no brakes offense, hey man, I grew up in the Bay Area in Northern California. We're defense first fighters, and people could laugh at us and all that, but if someone's doing all offense, I'm always going to be wary, because I've never seen an all gas, no brakes offensive fighter go to the furthest extent of the sport. It always feels like the very best fighters of any era are offense, defense, defense, offense. So if he can't kind of hit that threshold, we might be looking at the guy who loses to the guy to be the best guy in the generation after all these heavyweights. But I think that he's someone to be watching, because he has the most pedigree of anyone on this card. So in terms of amateur attributes, he's the guy. All right? And then we look deeper on the card. We got Bruce Carrington, very, very good fighter. Bruce an 8-rounder. I think by the end of this year, he should be probably taking 10-round fights. And then it's just going to be a waiting game for when he gets his big moment to kind of see where does he stack up in the division. I think Bruce is getting close to getting those fights like a Ray Ford, like a Joet Gonzalez, like a Luis Alberto Lopez. He's getting in that conversation, you know. Ruben Villa, Bruce Carrington, that would be a good fight. He's getting in there. So even Duke Reagan, I wish I could see more Duke Reagan, but even Duke Reagan's a really good fighter, and he's very underrated. So Bruce is in that conversation, and he's going to be fighting on this card. We also got Nico Ali Walsh on the undercard. He's coming off of that disappointing performance from the Lomachenko and Devin Haney performance. Obviously, it's what no one wanted. He didn't want it. Probably the promoter didn't want to fight like that. He's not rematching the guy he had trouble with. Nico's caught between styles, too. It's like he's a very green fighter who had a limited amateur experience. Typically, fighters like this would be fighting on regional and club shows and building their way up. It's obvious he has a great work ethic. It's obvious he works hard. Now it's just how far can his hard work catch up to talent and physical ability? Because once he starts getting into those 20 win, like he's going to have a little bit more leeway than most fighters, because it's kind of like the Chavez Jr. thing where they're going to try to build him a little bit more. He's getting, the thing with Nico Ali Walsh is he's actually getting a lot better than when he turned pro. The problem is two things. Most people don't see fighters every single time they fight, and Nico Ali Walsh, we've seen every single fight of his career, so he's judged differently. Secondly, he's growing, but he's not your typical world-class fighter that makes it to your television. So the growth that he's making, it takes an astute boxing mind to see his development. I'm seeing him develop a lot, but now I'm seeing him kind of with a mentality of offense, entertain, land big punches. And I think he needs to mix it up. I think he needs to keep that defense relevant, pick his shots, and try to dictate with, I'm going to sound like a broken record, dictate with a jab, dictate with counterpunching, but facilitate and be first. I think he's in a phase where he's experimenting with new and different styles, and we got to see how that works, because sometimes that can drown a guy, sometimes that can level you up. Nico's in a development phase where I think he's trying to figure out what his fighting style is going to be, and maybe on a deeper level, who he is going to be as a person for the next 10 to 15 years. Also, we got Abdullah Mason. That's probably the other standout fighter on this card. Probably, if we were to say all things are equal, he's probably our prospect of the year right now. He's probably the front runner. He's probably the most exciting type of fighter that we have under the Top Rank banner at lightweight. I mean, yes, they need to move his competition a bit more. I think he's ready for some really good fighters. I think him and Danger Muratalla would be a fantastic fight in the near future. We gotta hold back a bit of praise because Abdullah is really good, but we gotta see what happens when the competition steps up. He's passing all the marks that you want to see in a great young fighter, and I think more so when he finishes and has a great performance, he says all the things we want to hear a great fighter say. So Abdullah Mason to me is one of these guys where you probably, if you look at my channel, you're tuning into Abdullah every time because he's gonna be a world champion. I don't think there's any doubt in that. But this is someone where we're looking at someone that could be a Hall of Fame fighter that's worthy of following his whole career. That being said, that's a lot of praise on a young man, and he's got to pass some of these check marks against these tough, durable veteran opponents. So this is one step closer to that moment, but we don't want to get ahead of ourselves because boxing is a combination of physical skills, toughness, mentality, the mental component of the sport. You want to have all of those things in harmony, and once young people start hearing too much of this and that and everything that's going to happen, you can unintentionally derail a young fighter's career with your hoopla and your excitement about what they could become. So Abdullah Mason, I'm very, very, very high on. At some point, I believe he will be a world champion, and I think he's just a fighter that appears to be a very, very special fighter that I'm very excited about. Let me know. Leave a comment. Start responding. Let's get the interaction up. Talk to you later.